and welcome back to The Dawn Show. If you have questions about your finances, about your money, call us 866-472-8868 here with Stan Molotsky, of course, president of SHM Financial. So it's good to have you here. You know, I think that, as you know, I did news for decades.
Correct.
And the news nowadays scares the heck out of you, doesn't it? It's like, where do I put my money? Not just with what bleeds leads, but also with regard to the financial world and the financial markets. People are scared.
Well, they're scared. There's a lot of things going on today that haven't been going on forever and a day. Unfortunately, they're going to continue to go on. So when you decide that you're going to start putting something aside, which you should start to do as soon as possible, you want to look at how much risk you want to take at whatever it is you're depositing your money into. And then what we do with clients is give them what we call a financial stress test. In other words, how much risk do they want to take? And it's interesting, if they're married, sometimes one wants to take more risk, one wants to take less risk.
Yin and the yang, you know.
Exactly, and that's part of and it's an ongoing process because things change. And as you look at the risk and the goals and objectives, they're also constantly, changing. And when you start out, when you're a young couple, how do you start out? How do you divide up that money? Well, when I got married, which was a long time ago.
How long have you been married?
53 years.
Oh, God bless. That's beautiful.
To a wonderful lady. It's really super. She has to be to put up with what she's going through. But my dad told me, you'll do what you're going to do, but you might want to think about this. And he said, basically, why don't you divide your monies into thirds? A third yours, a third hers, and a third in a joint account. That way you do what you do with 1/3, she'll do what she does with 1/3, and the other 1/3 is in a joint account that you talk to get. And we've always done that, and it's worked out for us terrific. And I would strongly suggest any young couple, any couple, that's how they do that.
Oh, that's great advice. So what are some of your rules that first of all, you've said, just ask a lot of questions?
Well, no matter who you're dealing with, you have to be on the same page as them. And not everybody is on the same page with everybody else. They can't dictate to you, the client, what you should be doing. They can give you options and choices. So you want to make sure you're dealing with someone who gives you a variety of different choices. They do not have a preconceived product line that this is what they have to offer to you. You want to make sure they are objective, and you want to make sure you know how they get compensated for what they're presenting to you.
And how do you know who to trust? I mean, considering that source, how do you know?
Well, you don't know, but you know reputation of the person, you know how long they've been in practice, and it's important also as you're going through this, when you're dealing in the brokerage arena, you're buying stocks, bonds, ETFs, mutual funds, you want to make absolutely sure you know who the custodian of your assets are. What entity is the custodian of your assets, and how you can access that custodian so that you can keep track of what is going on in that account, whether you're dealing with a commission-based entity or whether you're dealing with an entity like ours, which is a fee-based registered advisory entity. It was one of the divisions of our particular firm.
Okay, and so take me to, so trust your instincts. That's another one that you
Absolutely.
just say at the end of the day, trust.
Fortunately, for me, my wife has great instincts as far as looking at people and saying, we don't need to be friends there, let's go. I mean, great instincts. My son who works with me, also super, he inherited from his mother. Great instincts as far as knowing those kinds of things. So it's important that whoever you deal with, you ask a lot of questions, and a lot of questions, and let them explain to you what they're trying to do. And when they explain to you why you should be purchasing a specific product, if they don't make it in a language that you understand, it's not you, the client's fault. It's the advisor's fault in not being able to break it down in words that you understand. And if you don't understand it, you should not do it.
Oh, that's great advice. So when you talk about risks and rewards, a lot of people think, oh, I have to take a big risk to get a big reward.
Not necessarily. I mean, it's the tortoise and the hare. I mean, which do you do? The gradual kinds of performance. My wife is from New England. conservative background. I grew up in South Jersey, a little different. So I was more risk oriented. She was very conservative. And when we broke up the assets way back, and she started putting money into different things, conservative related, bank stock, certificates of deposit, annuity type programs. And I was more of the high flying kind of thing. And as we kept track over the years, it's fantastic that her conservative gradual performance was comparable to my all over the place kind of performance.
So it worked out.
It worked out, and the
perfectly.
joint stuff was sort of a combination of the two of the different things. So you get more excitement on the risk taking, but a conservative, gradual approach in the long run pays off for the majority of people.
Oh, absolutely. Our conversation with Stan continues right after this. Talking about your money today here on The Dawn Show. We are live and we are local, and we are with Stan Molotsky of SHM Financial, which ironically is your wife Sharon is the SM too, so you get the whole family going.
Yes, correct. Right.
And I love that you pay tribute to your wife. That's so great.
Well, she's been very inspirational in what I've been doing, and she has a tremendous amount of patience to allow me to do the variety of things that I've been doing. I've been in practice since 1958, and we got married in 1960, so it's a long time partnership, right?
And the thing about it is you've seen a lot of changes in the news, in the financial markets, in the country, and so you have this wonderful perspective. Back in the day, and even I said when I went to journalism school, when you were 18, you were on your own. Bye-bye, put yourself through this and that. But nowadays, it's a new day, and parents, when my sons were born, we started putting away into those 529s.
Right.
Immediately.
Correct.
Because we know that exorbitant cost of college.
It is astronomical today when you think about what it costs to send kids to school today, whether it's a private university or a public university. It is astronomical.
And it's intimidating. So how much should I save?
As much as you possibly can, as soon as possible. And again, it becomes how much do you want to obligate yourself for, meaning the parent, to send the child, to college? How much in debt do you want to go to send that person to college? And again,
look at this.
It's beyond comprehension.
Nearly $500,000. My stepdaughter Stacia is pregnant, so do you think about when her baby is born in January? They're looking at $500,000 for that child to go to college someday. It's incredible.
Well, my son, who works with me, married late, and he has two twins. They're 2.5 years old. Same thing. When they're ready to go to college, like $1 million each in today's terms. You can't comprehend that.
But if you start saving now what if you wait? Some people, maybe they're in a situation where
they can't. Well, then therefore you make changes as you're going to college. You should be saving from day one to go to college, as you should be saving from day one, for retirement purposes. So that's why the adage is you pay yourself first as often as you possibly can. Take 10%, 5% of every check that you get and put it into some form of a savings account. That's an absolute guaranteed minimum thing that you should do. People say, well, how do I do that? I can just about make ends meet now. Well, it's like I say, you go to yourself, you say, my employer said to me, we're laying people off. You're not going to lose your job, but we're going to cut your salary by 10%. You're excited, but you're disappointed, but you still have your job.
Right.
So if you say that, you take that 10%, 5%, and pay yourself first, you're building up some form of a plan or a savings for some sort of a plan for college, whether it's private school or whether it's some form of a retirement that you're going to plan for at some point. So you have to pay yourself first.
Yeah, and that's great advice for anybody, no matter where you're at, how much money you have, just to take a little bit out, it all adds up.
Absolutely correct.
Let's get into legacy planning. What do you mean by that?
Well, it's a matter of saying, okay, I have these assets, and I'm going to use some of these different assets. You must have a will. You must, no matter, even if you're single, you should have a will because you have assets or obligations that have to be taken care of. you should certainly have powers of attorney, which mean if something happens to you and you're incapacitated, who's going to take care of paying the bills, doing the things that are necessary?
And what do you mean by durable?
Well, there are different types of powers of attorney. Again, we're not attorneys. We have an attorney that's on staff at our firm that works with the client and his or her attorney. So you need the powers of attorney that would be for health, and you need the powers of attorney so that the person you're giving the power of attorney to can pay your bills and take care of your 401k and your IRA accounts if you are incapacitated. So you need a financial power of attorney and you need a health power of attorney.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line here is that nobody's going to do this for you. And,
No.
and that's, you know, when you talk about your health and hospitalization and who knows what can happen in the future, it's really about planning ahead and controlling your future.
Planning ahead and controlling the future. And again, as people live longer, it's important that when we have, let's call them mature people that come into the office, we like sort of insist that we communicate with their children so that they know the children could be in their 50s and 60s, but they know what we're doing with their parents as far as advice we're giving to them. And we copy to them and we copy to their attorneys so that everybody's on the same page. There's no surprises down the road.
What I love about you, Stan, is that it's not just about financial advice, it's family advice. It's taking from your family, and that's so true.
Exactly. It's part of the legacy planning is, you know, as a lot of our clients are mature. You know,
and on that note, you know what, we're running out of time.
Okay.
I needed another half hour with you.
My pleasure, anytime.
Stan, thank you so much, and love to your wife, Sharon.
Thank you. Right.
And love to you too. See you tomorrow here on The Dawn Show.
Right.